Hello viewers, learners, and my fellow comrades. Welcome in today's session. Today we want to learn more on classification of cost. We want to learn more on classification of cost, which is an interesting part of learning with regards to today's session, because we know very well that at the end of the day, you can either incur cost, and if you incur cost, you have to know which cost have you incurred. Good. Now, for the learners, this part is much examined. First, you can get, at the end of the day, you have to know the definition of cost. So the objective for the learners and even those in business, objective one, and all of us we know. So one, we have to know what is cost, definition of cost. Definition of cost. Two, at the end of this session, we have to know what is classification. We have also to define classification. Classification. Then three, we must be able to illustrate, to group various costs in we classify cost in various how they are classified in various classification. So we are going to look into how they are classified. So classification of cost, I think will lie under that. Then also we'll be able to illustrate this classification of cost, illustrate using diagrams. We illustrate using diagrams. So because you can get a question in this area that requires you to classify, you state or you analyze cost classification using diagrams. You analyze cost classification or classification of cost using diagrams. So at the end of this session, I believe all of us will be able to tell which costs we are incurring in the businesses, and we can be able to group them in regards to today's learning. Good. So direct to the point. One, as I've said, classification of cost. Classification of cost. Classification of cost. Classification of cost. So here we have to define first cost. And cost is, in simple words, you can just say cost is the amount of expenditure. Cost here, cost is the amount of expenditure. Is the amount of expenditure incurred on or attributed to a specific thing or activity. Amount of expenditure incurred on or attributed to a specific thing or activity. Good. So when we incur maybe you have paid for something in the business, you have paid maybe for rent, you have paid for debtors, you have done so many things. You have gone an expense of maybe purchasing materials, paying labor costs. So we are going to group them under various classification according to their maybe behavior. Good. So that is cost. So after we have defined cost, now we know, because I said, as for those who are following up with the video, that for those people who account for the cost in an organization, we call them the cost accountant. Cost accountant. And cost accountant, their main objective in the business is to ensure that they maximize on profit and minimize on losses. They maximize on profit and minimize on losses. Now, how do you minimize on losses? One, you have to track all the cost that has taken place in the business. The amount of expenditure that has taken place in anything that has occurred in the business that is attached to maybe monetary value, the cost accountant must account for it. They must, even if in every department, they must be able to tell certain amount was allocated to this, maybe rent, certain amount was allocated to labor, certain amount was allocated maybe for the purchase of the material. So that is why we say they are able to maximize on profits and minimize on losses. How do they minimize on losses? Because after they have analyzed this cost, if the cost maybe it has been used or we have incurred a cost, yes, but in a good way, yes, they will say we have incurred a cost, but we incurred it in paying maybe wages. But how, when we incur cost and those costs or those expenses we have incurred, they are not in order, or maybe there is misuse of resources, they will be able to advise the management that we are using maybe excess, we are incurring excess cost because of maybe purchasing more of the materials, and at the end of the day, we are not able to use all the materials in the organization or in the business, whereby they went waste. Thereby, we are incurring more of we are running at a loss. So the cost accountants, they do what we call cost classification. They are able to classify this and they are able to advise the management well. Good. Now, that one said, so we have now to go to classification. Now, classification, in this case, classification in this case, we say is the process of grouping cost. Is the process of grouping. Is the process of grouping. Is the process of grouping cost. Is the process of grouping cost. Grouping cost according to their common, grouping cost according to their characteristics. According to their characteristics. Good. As I've mentioned that if this cost we have incurred, they are of the materials. So we will we'll be able to group them that this cost were for the materials. This costs were for the labor. This costs were for the paying rent. So that is why we are saying is the process of grouping. We have grouped that for the material. We have grouped that for the paying wages, paying workers. We have grouped that. So those expenses, because we have said the amount of expenditure, is the amount of expenditure we have incurred in the business. So under classification now, we are coming to group them under one part so that we can be able to record them systematically and according to their characteristics. So we always say that this is done in order to be concise in every cost incurred in the process of maybe manufacture, so that such costs can be accurately recorded. So we can accurately record. If you have been accurately, underline the word accurately. We can be able to accurately record, because after we have done that, we'll be able to record the cost we have incurred. Then two, after we have recorded, we'll be able to monitor. We'll be able also to monitor this cost. That's why I've said after we have monitored and we see it is not the cost we are incurring that are in order, we'll be able to advise the management. And after we have monitored, we'll be able to control. We'll be able to control. So that is a classification. The process of grouping cost according to their characteristics in order to accurately record, monitor, and control. Good. Now, let us now venture into this various classification of cost. So I will start with this cost. They can be classified according to their behavior. So for the learners, you can get a question, analyze or state and explain the classification of cost, or state and explain classification of cost with a well-labeled diagram. Yeah. So here we are even using illustration of cost with a well-labeled labeled diagrams. Diagrams. Good. So we are going to start to say how they are classified. Then, after we see how they are classified, we can also illustrate it even using a diagram. So that question for the learners is very key. You have to note that. And for those in business, now you know what is cost. Then we know how we'll be grouping. Then we want to tell which type of this cost we normally incur in the businesses or in the organization. Good. So we have a classification 1. We want to classify them according to behavior. Classification. So 1 will classification according to behavior. According to behavior. We want to classify this cost according to behavior. How they behave in the business. How they behave in the business. 1, under that classification according to behavior, 1A, you can just say we have what we call fixed cost. Fixed cost. Wonderful. Fixed cost. At the end of the day, all of us, we are going to be cost accountant at the end of this session, whereby we will go in our business. We are going to make sure that we be able to track the cost that we are incurring so that we can maximize on profits and minimize on losses. So 1, in the business, according to behavior, we always incur the cost that we are called, the cost we group them according to behavior, called fixed cost. What are these fixed costs? So this one, you can say these are costs which does not vary with activities or outputs. You see, they does not vary with activities or output. Good. Fixed cost. From the word fixed, it is just permanent. Fixed. From the word fixed, something is just there. Fixed. It is permanent. You see? It remains constant within a relevant range. A relevant range, we just mean within maybe which relationship between maybe the cost and the activity it holds, maybe under maybe a certain period of time. It is just fixed. Let's say, for the example, like the building you are doing in the business now. There is that cost you are paying for maybe on monthly basis. We have agreed with the management of that building that I'm going to pay 10,000 Kenyan shilling. Now, this regardless of what you are going to use in that business, it doesn't in that building. It will not in any way affect that 10,000. If I use that building to produce maybe goods that will earn me a profit of $1 million, that cost, there's no way I will come and say that the management will come in and say that we are going to do what? We are going to change the rent because you are earning more. Because that's why we are saying they does not vary with the activities or output. So the moment I've paid you 10,000, we are done with you. I do my own activities in that business, in that building. If I decide to close the building, I can decide to close. If I use it in any activity I'll use in that building, there's no way you'll come and change the rent or the cost that I'm incurring on that building. So those are called fixed costs. And the examples, we have the rent, maybe management salaries. If the management, we have agreed with the management, you are in the top manager, you are the manager of my business, and we have agreed during the month, in the course of the month, I'm going to pay you this amount. But when you see that maybe you have managed well, the plans have worked for us, and we have earned a good profit, you start saying, no, let's change. That is, no. We are under fixed cost. We are under fixed cost. The insurance of the building, the same thing. insuring our car, it is under certain period, maybe yearly, premium, monthly, yearly, depending on the insurance you have taken. So it is a fixed cost. It is a fixed cost. Good. So that is one classification according to behavior. One, fixed cost. And in case they have asked you to use a diagram to represent fixed cost, it's very, very easy. You just draw. You just draw that way. You just draw that way, fixed cost, and then we say, let this one be cost. Then this one will be activity. Anything that we are doing in that business, activity. Then you realize that we have said it remain constant at a relevant period. At a relevant period. So this is now we called fixed cost. Fixed cost. Because it is just remain constant. There's no way it's going to change. If it is 10,000, 10K, it remains 10K. If it is 30K, in the management, I'll pay 30K. That is it. So here you can say examples, e.g. we have rent, we have management salary, we have even insurance. So they will never change. They are fixed. They are fixed. So that is what we call fixed cost. Fixed cost. Good. Let us now see the opposite of fixed cost. We call it variable cost. What are variable costs? Now, and we are still under behavior. Classification according to behavior. So, variable cost. Variable cost. So, we want to say part B, variable cost. Variable cost. Good. Variable cost, in this case, we always say that these are costs that vary in direct proportion to the volume of output. They vary in direct proportion to the level of output. The level of output. That is variable cost, where it is a cost that vary in direct proportion to the volume of output, to the volume or the level of output. So when the volume of output increases, variable cost also do what? Increases, and vice versa. Good. I will just refer the same thing to maybe now let's see. This one I will refer it to labor cost. Now, maybe these are the workers. And a certain period of time, you see, maybe the workload, it will increase. Meaning, when it will increase, you'll realize workers will have to go for extra hours so that we can beat the target. We can beat the target. Now, when they work for more hours compared to the hours that we have agreed upon, meaning I will have to pay more amount of money compared to what I always pay them. So, meaning the moment the work is up, it goes up, I will pay according the way it is behaving. When it's the demand maybe in the market is low, meaning we are going to lower, maybe we are producing now low, because it will means I will also lower what? The salaries. I will also lower the salaries. So it will keep changing, varying from time to time. Even the material cost. Material. When the material, maybe there's demand high in the market, we'll have to tend to go and buy more material. You see? So this cost, if you are buying maybe this week, you are buying for 1,000. Next week, when the demand is high, we'll buy maybe for 5,000. So it will increase. When also another week, it will go even down, less than even 1,000. So we'll have to go and buy for 500. Meaning it will go down. So those are how they behave. They vary in direct proportion to the level or to the level or to the output of the activities. Or it keep increasing or decreasing, and vice versa. keep increasing or decreasing. Good. So we can say when they have asked you to represent using a diagram, just very simple that way. This is a variable cost. So we say variable cost as we, that one here cost, and this let's say activity. So this one will always increase. It keep increasing. It keep increasing and decreasing. It either can increase or it can decrease. So this is what we call the variable cost. Variable cost. Variable cost. And then you can give an example and say maybe the material, or e.g. material, or labor cost. Labor cost. Good. Labor cost. Thank you. We go to another one. We have a semi-variable cost or semi-variance cost. Now we are still under behavior. So part C, we have a semi-variable cost. Under semi-variable cost, we always say that these are costs that are partially fixed. They are partially fixed. They are partially fixed and partially variable. Partially fixed and partially variable. So it can either be fixed or it can either be variable. So let's say like e.g. we can give an example like electricity bill, which has a fixed element, like in the case that one, it can either be variable at the same time, depending on how you have used the electricity maybe in the house. This month you can use this volume of maybe this unit. Another time you'll use this token. So you see, it keeps changing. It is not that fixed. So it will keep changing. That's why you can see nowadays people are installing tokens, because it depends on how you are going to use the amount of the unit maybe in that gas compared to the activity you are carrying out. Maybe for me, maybe I'm just using it for my household. Others are using it for maybe production of other maybe activity goods and services. So it will not be the same. It will keep changing. So when we are representing this, you can present it in two forms. Semi-variable cost. One, you can present it this way. We can represent it this way and say this is cost. This is activity now. I'm using, maybe this is now electricity bill. Others, they can maintain, can be fixed. Others can just maintain the whole month, that this month they use this unit, the same they use this unit, because that is the only activity they are carrying in the organization. But it can also be what? Can also shoot. Can also go that side, and we call that changing of a constant rate. Maybe it has changed. So this one changing in a constant rate can also increase. So that is one diagram you can use that way. Or you can have a diagram like this. You can have a diagram like this to show the semi-variable cost. Whereby this remains to be cost and this remains to be activity. This remains to be cost and this remains to be activity. So it will keep, you can say, changing that way. Maybe rent today it is maybe 1,000, tomorrow 2,000, today 3,000, next day 4,000, 4,500, it goes 6,000, that way. So it keeps changing. So, you know, it is fixed, it is variable. It is fixed, it is variable. So it will keep changing. So changing, so you can say it will keep changing. Then you can say e.g., maybe we have this one I said maybe rent, you know, This one you can say electricity. So it will keep changing. It will keep changing. So here, let's say e.g. rent. E.g. rent. Good. So these are two diagrams you can use to represent semi-variable cost. Semi-variable cost. Semi-variable cost. Good. Now, other cost we have, which we have already even tackled in other areas, but I will just pass through so that we can be aware of. Good. Good. Let me take you through. These are the major ones. The three you have to know. The other ones we have even just a matter of revision. Then we have classified as product cost or a period cost. Products cost. Good. So if somebody products cost. What are products cost? Classified either as a products cost or a period cost. So product cost, we always say that it's a cost necessary for production. So we have here product cost. Product cost. I will just name them as we go. We have products cost. We say it's a cost necessary for production and cannot be incurred in case there is no production. So this is meant for production. Production. So this is just meant for production, and it cannot be incurred in any way if the production has not taken place. If production has not taken place. So they will always be incurred when a production has taken place. And maybe, e.g., maybe if you have maybe cost of direct materials, come them, direct materials, direct labor, you see factory overheads, they lie here. Product cost, they lie here. Here we have a direct material. Direct material, remember in another session we said these are costs that they are directly associated in a final product. You can tell. Like we say, we used an example of furniture and we could say this furniture has been used to make this table, so we can account for it. Compared to indirect cost where we have used the bolt, which, it just maybe we have just used 5 bolts in that table to come up with the final product. So indirect cost, we cannot be able easily to identify that one. But direct cost, these are costs that you can tell, that you can account for directly. Good. So those are product. Then we have classification according to controllability. Classification according to controllability. So controllable cost, which I also want you to know. So that one is classification according to controllability. So controllable costs are costs that may be directly regulated by a given level of managerial influence. Variable costs are generally controllable by maybe departmental heads. Departmental heads can control these costs that we are incurring maybe in our department or in the organization or the management, the higher top management level. If they can see that costs that we are incurring on material, we can reduce them, or the hours of paying the worker, we can reduce number of workers. They can be easily controllable by the top management or the departmental heads. Uncontrollable costs, the opposite of this, uncontrollable costs. Uncontrollable costs, in this case, we always say that these are costs that cannot be influenced by the action of a specified member of the enterprise. Something like this one cannot be influenced either by management or what. They cannot be influenced in any way. Let's say if we have fixed costs, like rent, fixed costs like e.g. rent. Here, if we have just agreed with the owner of the building that we are going to pay this, we cannot control that. We have just to pay that. So it cannot be influenced. But the controllable costs, they can be easily influenced by the management cost. Then we have another one, classification according to time. 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 Classifi Classification of cost. Classification of cost according to time. According to time. Good. So as a cost accountant, we have, this is part 3. This one we say the classification according to controllability. Classification according to controllability. Good. So this one now, classification according to time. Classification according to time. We said here we are going to look into maybe historical cost. Historical cost. Whereby we said here, under this we said we have historical cost. Historical cost. Historical cost, in this case, we say these are just costs ascertained after they have been incurred. We have already incurred this, so we are going just to account for them because we have already incurred this. We have already incurred this cost, and we cannot maybe we are just ascertaining them because we incurred maybe the other month, maybe we incurred in the production, so we are just ascertaining them. So they happened earlier before. Then predetermined cost. Predetermined cost, in this case, they are a future cost. They are a future cost. Predetermined cost. Predetermined cost. Predetermined cost. These are future cost. We are trying to calculate to ascertain in advance that in future we are going to incur this cost. So we can put some measures and know how to, we can either control, monitor, or do what. I think a predetermined cost, you will understand more when I will upload the video for the cost estimation. Cost estimation. Yes, we will be able to come up with the regression analysis and all that. I think you will understand more how we determine the future cost. How to determine future cost. So those are the classification according to time. Classification according to time. Good. Classification according to time. Classification according to time. Then I have another cost here which I will I can close with, which are very nice. Even they are called special cost for managerial decision making. Wow. This one, special cost. Let us see this special cost. Special cost. Special cost for managerial decision making. For managerial decision making. Good. Let us see this cost that management always choose from time to time. Good. We have relevant cost. Relevant cost. Relevant cost. Relevant cost. Relevant cost. In this case, we always say that these are costs which changes from one decision to the next decision. Yes, they will be affected by the decision being made under different alternatives. If this maybe we had agreed, the management had agreed, maybe we are going to pay this to the workers, but at one point they sit again, they convene a meeting and say no, we are going to revisit or to review the payment. That will come now under relevant cost. And these are costs that are affected by the relevant decision from one decision to another. So relevant cost. And I've mentioned when we say maybe pay review and all that, they come under relevant cost. They are determined, or they keep changes. There are costs that changes from one decision to the next decision. Changes. The cost changes from one decision to another. So they keep changes. They keep changing. Good. Relevant cost. Then we have irrelevant cost. irrelevant cost, irrelevant cost, irrelevant cost, irrelevant cost. Other people can call it sunk cost. You can call it sunk cost. Sunk cost. Good. So this one we normally say these are costs which have been already incurred in the past and cannot be changed. These are costs that have already been incurred. Already been incurred. Good. Maybe the management they went for certain meeting, and after the meeting they gave out the sitting allowance, and it was dispersed to the management already. That one has already been incurred, so we are just ascertaining it. So it has these are costs that has already been incurred, and we are just ascertaining for them. Then we have another one called incremental cost or differential cost. Incremental cost, incremental or differential cost. Differential cost, we say this is an increase or decrease in cost as a result of alternative cost of action. If we decide that we are going to take this, as I said, as a cost accountant, you will be able to advise the management. So if they decide to take the cost of action this way, in regards to the advice you have given them, maybe that there is an excess or there is a misuse of resources, because so they can decide and say that now let us use this alternative, or let us go with this. So it either will increase or it will decrease. It will either increase or decrease. So that's why we are saying this is an increase or decrease in cost as a result of an alternative cost of action. Good. We have marginal or variable cost. You can say marginal cost, the marginal cost. Good. Marginal cost, this comes in when the management wants to produce maybe an extra unit of commodity. Maybe they have seen, let us add another commodity compared to what they have been used to. So we say, this time, let us add another commodity. So those costs that they will incur in producing extra commodity, they are called marginal cost. Marginal cost, extra cost, extra commodity. If we produce more another commodity compared to what we are used to producing, we call that one marginal cost. So those costs that we will incur in producing extra commodity unit of a commodity, it's called marginal cost. We have a replacement cost. Replacement cost for this case, replacement cost for this case we say these are market value, replacing maybe an existing asset in the business. Replacing an existing asset in the business, we call that one existing cost. Good. Then we have opportunity cost. This one, I think, for the students, economic students, they understand this well. Opportunity cost, we always say here, when we forego another we forego something and we go for another one, that just foregoing that one and going for this, there are certain costs you will incur. There are certain costs you will be able to incur. So those costs are called opportunity cost. So you can say it is the sacrifice involved in accepting the alternative under consideration. We had this, but there is another alternative that has been put on table. So we have to forego one and go for the other one. So that one is called opportunity cost, opportunity cost. Good. So for today, I think we can stop there. So be able just to know how to classify them the way we have classified, and be able also to, for the variable, the under behavior, be able to illustrate using the diagrams. You'll be good to go. So if you have any comment in regards to this, just drop in the comment section, so I'll be able to see where I can assist. For those who are new to the channel, subscribe, and also do what? Share the channel to the share the link to other students so that they can gain, or those who are involving in maybe in the decision making or in the businesses. We can learn from this and be able to tell which course are we incurring, so that we can be able to do what? To monitor, control, and be able to tell which cost are we incurring in the business, so that we can be able to maximize on profits and minimize on losses. So for today, may God bless you, and bye-bye.